Hello friends, today I want to share with you my personal favorite triceps exercise. So keep in mind that I'm going to describe this with a diagram because I think a lot of you probably haven't seen this kind of variation specifically before, which is why I'm sharing it. But keep in mind that I'm not saying this is the best, this is, S+ tier on the tier list of exercises. This is simply just Ben saying this is Ben's favorite current tricep extension, and I'm sharing it with you all and sharing the principles of it with you all so that you can potentially do it, and if you like it, fantastic. Okay, so here's a cable column. We all are familiar with the traditional cable extension, but the reason this is going to be different is because we're actually going to use or make use of the cable column, unlike a traditional rope extension where you're just standing sort of out here in front of the stack. What we're going to do is we're going to stand kind of next to the cable stack. Okay, just pretend this torso length makes sense. And so boop, 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 I'm facing this direction. And what we're going to do is we're going to anchor our shoulder, or really the bottom of our humerus, right? This portion basically, if these are your triceps right here, the tendon right here, you're gonna sort of jam that into the cable column. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab the cable like this. So here's the cable and here's the handle. You're gonna grab it and you're gonna stand basically so that you put the cable at a height that's maybe around, height of your head or something similar, which you can play around with, of course. But at the top position, what you'll notice is that the cable is really just smushing the elbow together, right? It can be a little bit higher and coming down from a higher angle, but you basically want to make it so that because the cable is coming behind you, what it's doing is it's pulling your hand sort of backward. And because it's pulling your hand backward, it's driving your upper arm right here. It's almost driving your upper arm into the cable column just by virtue of the resistance, right? Which is going to be great for stability. You can think of this like the sort of same reason you would use a preacher bench to do a curl or something. And so as you go through the triceps extension, right, and you come down, here to the bottom, right, this cable is obviously going to sort of change direction. It may or may not be able to orient that direction depending on where you are, but you basically just do this. You line up next to the cable column, you set the cable about, the height of your shoulder or a little bit higher, you jam your arm into the cable column for support and stability, and then you basically just pull the cable forward for a single arm cable extension and do it that way. And it's so simple and it's so stable, and I cannot believe that more people are not making use of the cable column to stabilize themselves to do triceps extensions. It's something that people and everywhere have done forever with biceps, but for whatever reason for triceps, it's kind of like this forgotten thing we don't really consider. And so keep in mind that although I love this exercise, this is not necessarily just something that applies in this one case. In other words, the principles discussed here can also apply to any other muscle group, right? Basically fix bones that you don't want to move and move bones that you do. So if I want to do a tricep extension, I don't want to move this, but I do want to move this. So I find somewhere to fix this and I move this against the load that, falls in accordance with the goal. The other thing that I'd say about this, and just some extra tips, some extra tricks maybe that you can use to adjust this to feel comfortable for you, is you can move the pulley upward or downward, right, which is kind of a given. If you feel like, if it's too low and it's really way too heavy in the top, you can just move the pulley upward so that it's maybe somewhere here, so that it's coming from a higher angle or something like that, right? No absolutely correct answer. Find the variation of it that makes sense for you. I personally, and as you all have seen in the videos that I've been putting up here, I like to use a squat pad to put it around the cable column. Not necessarily a must, but I prefer it, especially with narrower cable columns, just because it's more comfortable. If your gym doesn't have a squat pad, you can use a towel from your gym if your gym has towels, or just bring one yourself. You could also maybe, like if you bring a sweatshirt to the gym, just put the sweatshirt there and use it for support, right? There's so many different things that you can do. You'll also notice that I'm using a cuff in the videos that I have displayed. You don't need to use a cuff. You can simply use a D handle or any kind of handle that you feel good about using. I personally love using a cuff just because it sort of takes away any kind of finger, forearm, wrist involvement that I might have otherwise felt in the past. I'm not quite wrapping it on my on top of my wrist or above my wrist itself, sort of wrapping it around the hand. Whatever it happens to be, just take all these specific bits of information with a grain of salt and just sort of look at this for what it represents principally, which is again just a very stable triceps extension. And one of the cool things that you can do with this extension that is not super common and also not possible in something like a two-arm extension is that when you fail on the shortening portion of the motion, what you can do is you can start to self-assist on what is known as the concentric, in other words, the way down, because you're not going to be able to keep going down, but you can use your other hand. But what you can do is when you fail, right, you can use your other hand, and then with just the working arm alone, you can raise upward, right, because you'll still have some gas left in the tank once you fail on the concentric on the way down. You'll still be able to bang out 2, 3, maybe even 4 more reps with those loaded eccentrics, and that can be a really great way to just add a little bit of volume, a little bit more effort to a set if you feel so inclined. And the last thing I'll say, just in terms of the technical elements of this, is don't be tied to facing a particular direction, right? So if I'm facing you, the camera, and the cable is coming from behind me, I'm not tied to having my spine straight. I'm not tied to bending it. I like to personally do a little bit of a side bend thing. I'm not tied to keeping my arm super tight. I'm not tied to having it out wider. I'm not tied to turning into it or turning away from it, right? Adjust, adjust, adjust to wherever you're comfortable. So I hope this overall tutorial was helpful. And if any of you give it a try, definitely let me know and let me know how you liked it.